Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's in the evening right now. It's actually 5:55 p.m. So it's about to be 6. But when you look outside, it looks like 7 a.m. in the morning. It really does look 7 a.m. in the morning. Um, Not long ago, I uploaded a video on YouTube. The video was filmed on Monday this week. This week. Today is Saturday. Today is Saturday, May 23rd. Yeah, May 23rd, 2026. I made that video on Monday, and on Monday, it was very very hot. If you remember making this video, I talked about Ebola, whatever, right? My camera was very very hot, and I have to move to my bedroom. And then on the next day, I cleaned my room, which as you can see, the whole room is really cleaned. I took everything out, right? I moved the cooling in my sitting room. It was freaking hot, like I could not believe. And starting Wednesday in the evening, it started raining. And today, since then, it's been very cold. Like I had to shut down my windows. Now I'm regretting for cleaning my house because the mattress, the stuff they made the room warmer. The jackets, I have to dig this from the my clothes, from my bags, because I already throw everything out. DC went from, like, within days, it went from 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like 36, 40 degrees Fahrenheit, Celsius, to 50. Now it's like 50 or 60. It's really like, let me show you. This is crazy. Like it changes in a days. Very, very fascinating. So this is the weather, right? So you can see we are in 18s and it's been raining since then. You can see the whole day it's gonna be raining. And this is 20. I'm using Celsius. This is like 20. So this is around 60. This is between 60 and 50s, around there, right? Then you have the entire week rain, 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 rain. It's gonna be very cold throughout until next Monday. So the whole month is gonna be very very cold. So it says here from Washington Post, more rain in DC today keeps conditions unsettled through Memorial Day. So we won't be even celebrate Memorial Day. So it'll be really raining like the whole week. Memorial Day is coming up next week. So it'll be raining the whole week. So no barbecues, nothing. I've never seen this kind of setting before. Like this is fascinating to me. Like how since since I started going to school here at Catholic University and I moved to DC since November. It's been cold. This one I've been making videos every single day. It's been cold since then. It's only hot like a few days. When people say here, oh, it gets super hot, I'm like, you guys don't know what gets hot. Like in other states, now in May, it's like really hot. So anyways, so that's like me fascinated by this, but I like it. Even though it's very cold, I cannot go out. I cannot go to an event, nothing like that, right? It's very very cold. Also the trees are starting. There's been windy, so you can see the trees are bending back and forth. This is because of the wind, extreme wind. So anyway, so today's video is going to be very controversial, and as you can see right now, I am on a Labor of Congress. So the reason why I made this video, create this channel, it's so that I can explore topics based on how I think. Because when I talk to other people, many people in America, when I was in Uganda, when I was younger, as young kids, we used to explore different topics. Illuminati, is God real? Is Jesus real? Is religion is fake? Like there was freedom. You don't think about this, but there's freedom of expression from lower level in African countries than you see in the United States. So when I came to the United States, I realized that there's actually freedom of speech, but it's also like not freedom of speech. People cannot talk to each other, right? So I can't ask anybody. You cannot explore these controversial topics with individuals because they are scared to say something. And even for me, I am immunity because I'm not working at the moment. But if I start working, I will be very careful what I say because what I say could represent my company. So here I am, and today I was watching a documentary. The documentary was about Trump and the government, about the United States. The documentary is from the German channel called DW, and the documentary was about. The question was: is the U.S. collapsing like an empire? Is this empire collapsing? That was like the main question, right? So in this video, they mentioned something like something called what's the name of this? They mentioned something called Antifa. So Antifa came out, and then for a long time, Antifa has been a word that came out many times, and then I look up on Google, I learn about it, I go on YouTube and I search, I learn about it, and I'm like, okay, whatever, so I forget about it. However, if I don't make a video about something, if I don't write it or do something about it, I'm gonna forget about it, right? So today it came out in the morning. I was watching a documentary, and I saw Antifa once again, and I searched on Google, Antifa. So this is the Google, so I searched Antifa, what is Antifa, and this popped up, okay? This is from the Labor of Congress, and they have a document detailing about what Antifa, so you can see here, where it says Antifa members domestic terrorists, right? So I realized that today I don't have any topics, so I might as well start sharing this information to public. Okay, so what is Antifa? If you're that kind of guy person out there who have questions, if you ask a Democrat, they will give you a different answer. If you ask a Republican, they give a different answer. What is Antifa? The Library of Congress, they have details and informations from all over the world, and they have all the facts, research. Their job is to research, so they do research, and they are paid by Congress to do that job. It's part of the Congress. So I want to read what the Antifa means, what it means. The author, his name is Sako Lisa. I don't know if it's he or she, and this publication was written back in 2020 around June. Yeah, I think June 9th. Is it June 9th? How do Americans write the dates? Yeah, June 9th, 2020. Okay, they start with the month, they do the date, and they do the year. So I have to be careful here. So I'm gonna read the documents, and I'm gonna tell you what these documents actually mean. I'm trying to make a sense of this. This is the first time I've also read this, so I really don't know much about this information. Usually when I hear Antifa, what comes to mind, this is a good idea to search and know how to read things. When I hear about Antifa, what comes to mind is Antifada. Antifada is a movement that happened in 1990s or something in Palestine and the entire Middle East, which was against the Israel invasions in Palestinian territories. So this is totally different from Antifada. So I thought it was Antifada. I thought it was like a Muslim thing, but it's not a Muslim thing. That's a different thing. Okay. So the title here says, "Are Antifa members domestic terrorists?" Question mark. The background on Antifa and the federal classification of their actions. Okay. Okay. So this is the. I don't know if you can read this. You can hear this from. If I press read, if I press listen, I don't know if you can listen to it. Let me see.
On May 31st, 2020, President Donald Trump announced via Twitter that the United States will be designating Antifa. This term is applied to an organization of loosely affiliated individuals who describe themselves and their ideological outlooks as Antifa, shorthand for anti-fascist.
Okay, so I like to use AI to read it, but I don't know if I will get in trouble for using this. But I want to read it from my own reading, right? I'm reading tea. I'm drinking some tea. So on May 31st, 2020, this is when Black Lives Matter broke out. This is when COVID was booming. At the time, I actually was driving through North Carolina to Washington, D.C. to whatever, Massachusetts. I was like commuting all over the world, right? On May 31st, 2020, this is like 2 days before this May. So it's like 6 years now. Yeah, 6 years now. 7 years almost. So it's coming up next week. This is like last week. So on May 31st, 2020, President Donald Trump announced via Twitter, now it's called X, that the United States will be designating Antifa. This term is applied to an organization of loosely affiliated individuals who describe themselves and their ideological outlook as Antifa, shorthand for anti-fascist. So fascist was a movement in Germany that led to killings of the Jews. It also was led by Hitler. Fascist and the Nazi is the same category. So just keep that in mind. So this is anti, so it's against the Nazism or anti-fascists. Fascist people or the Nazi people, they put anybody who's not white into one category. So if you are, and if you're not a Christian, but if you are a Jew, if you are Hispanic, Black, or Latino, or Asian, as long as you're not white, you are not welcome in a fascist world or in what's the name of the Nazi world. The goal for the Nazi was to have pure DNA for white Germans. That was them pure. Even if you're French, British, whatever you are not welcome in this category. So it's very concerning to categorize this, but anyway, let's move on. As a domestic terrorist group, okay, some media and the law enforcement reports suggest that Antifa members may be responsible for some of the violence and the looting that has taken place amid the protests that have occurred recently in various US cities. At the time, there was a protest, either anti-mask, anti-COVID, anti-government. It was mixed. Then we have Black Lives Matter protest, which I also protested at the time. Right, Black Lives Matter was advocating for black men being killed by the police. So, further, some reports indicate that Antifa members have been involved in peaceful protests as well. Okay, this is from the Library of Congress. This in focus discusses the background of the US Antifa movement, whether or not members and their actions may be categorized as domestic terrorists and domestic terrorism, respectively, and the issues around designating domestic groups as terrorists. The background of Antifa. This is very interesting. Antifa members view themselves as part of a protest tradition that acts back to opposition groups in Nazi Germany. I just said this. I did not read this before I was saying this. They have collected the same beliefs. Let me repeat this. Antifa members view themselves as a part of a protest tradition that acts back to opposition groups in Nazi Germany and the fascist Italy prior to World War II. So I was confused here. So Nazi is the German and the fascist is the Italian to World War II. This was before World War II, so prior to World War II, because these groups were uprising at the time. U.S. Antifa activism traces its roots to roots back to anti-racists who mobilized in the 1980s while opposing the activities of racist skinheads, members of the Ku Klux Klan, KKK, and the neo-Nazis. I'm not making this up. This is the date over here. This is the Library of Congress. Okay, it says Antifa members view themselves as part of a protest tradition that arcs back to opposition groups in Nazi. So I'm gonna highlight this. In Nazi, consider you can zoom in whatever you want to do. In that, of course, I cannot zoom in. In Nazis, Germany and the fascist Italy prior to World War II. So this was before World War II. U.S. Antifa activism traced its roots back to anti-racists who mobilized in the 1980s while opposing the activities of racist skinheads. I don't know what the fuck are skinheads. Members of the Ku Klux Klan and the neo-Nazi. So Ku Klux Klan is related to Ku Klux Klan and racist skinheads. Oh, the skinheads. Those like. Oh, now makes sense. Let me look it up on Google. This is crazy. You see, you need all this stuff. You never know these things. Skinheads. Okay, that's what I expected. Oh, what the hell is this? American skinheads, the criminology and control of hate crime. Interesting. Skinheads are members of the subculture that originated among working class youth in London in the 1960s. They are characterized by shaved or cross-cropped heads, boots, and distinctively tailored working class clothing. While the movement began with diverse but racial roots, it eventually splintered into multiple ideological fiction. Okay, so during the late 1970s and 1980s, the subculture experienced a worldwide revival, but also saw a major fracture. Racist skinheads, a fraction of the movement, was co-opted by white supremacy and the neo-Nazi groups, also known as boneheads. This group adopted the racist, anti-Semitic, and xenophobic ideologies and became associated with violence and hate crimes. Interesting. So you have neo-Nazi skinheads. These are white supremacy ideologies. Then you also have anti-racist skinhead. These are like actively opposing fascism and racism and white supremacy. Then you have traditionalists. These are like focused purely on the original 1960s style, roots, reggae, and working class culture. Roots, reggae. I thought this was from Jamaica. Anyway, let's move on. Founded in 2007, so Antifa is very new. The Rose City Antifa in Portland. Oh, this is why Trump hates Portland. In Oregon, is the oldest U.S. group to use Antifa in its moniker. Antifa groups in the United States gained prominence following violent clashes between white supremacists and their opponents, including Antifa supporter in Charlottesville, Virginia, on August 12, 2017. I remember this one. This time I was in the United States, August 12, 2017. There was a clash between black and white. But I don't know if they are labeling black people as Antifa, which will be stupid because this was about black people advocating for the history and the slave scripture, what do you call it, the scripture, whatever those guys on the horses, they used to enslave African Americans. So black people are like, we need to get rid of these things because they are bringing the history back. So anyway, that's the background of it. The US Antifa movement appears to be decentralized, consisting of independent, radical, like-minded groups and individuals. Its tenets can echo the principles of anarchism, socialism, and communism. Oh, that's scary. We don't want a communism in America. Members do not necessarily adhere to just the tenets of these philosophies. However, among many other things, they may also support environmentalism, the rights of indigenous population, and the gay rights. So there's a connection here between Antifa and Democrats. It's kind of now makes sense why Trump is going against them. It's crazy. Contemporary US Antifa adherents likely do not share a list of enemies, or as the movement lacks a unifying organizational structure or detailed ideology that might shape such a list. Because we don't know, like, I don't know, but this is scattered over the place, right? Um, our local groups do not necessarily listen to each other's pronouncements and might aim their animus at enemies specific to their group. Further, shape such a list. Local Further, fascism is notoriously difficult to define. Yeah, makes sense. It's really hard. Thus, particularly Antifa groups may oppose different things based on how they identify who or what is fascist. Okay, this is Antifa purpose and tactics. Some members are willing to commit crimes, some violent, to promote their beliefs, although much Antifa activity involves non-violent protests such as hanging posters, delivering speeches, and marching. As a core purpose, Antifa groups track and react to the activities of individuals or groups they see as advocating fascist views, such as neo-Nazi, racist, skinheads. Every time I read this, it sounds funny. Skinheads, white supremacists, and white nationalists. While a few concrete Antifa principles exist across all groups, US supporters have articulated four shared obligations. At some adherents, Antifa groups must 1. Track the activities of fascist groups. That's kind of cool. Sounds sexy to me. And 2. Oppose their public organizations. And 3. Support anti-fascist allies attacked by fascists or arrested by police. Oh. And 4. Not cooperate with the law enforcement. Excuse me. That's okay. The first one was cool, like track their fascist groups. I mean, FBI doing that. Also, CIA does that. That's their job. And 2, then you have oppose their public organizing. That's good. I like that. Support anti-fascist allies attacked by fascists or arrested by police. Well, and then not cooperate with the law enforcement. I mean, you need the police to do these things. How you gonna do this on your own, right? This is not cool. Antifa adherents believe that civil liberties protectionists and provide safe harbor to ideas and people bent on harming vulnerable population in the United States. This is true for black people, especially black men. They get attacked by police, go to jail, they have nobody to talk to them or help them out. So, thus, Antifa followers tend not to accept that their conventional government capacities will thwart the rise of fascist movements. They lack faith in the ability of law enforcement to investigate or prosecute fascists who break the law. That's what I'm talking about. Like you gotta include the police, you gotta include the government, the CIA to do this job, okay? And let me tell you, CIA can hire me to do. I'm not saying they can hire me, but they can hire somebody to do this job, okay? This is their job. This is why it exists. I don't know why. So prosecute fascists who break the law, especially during shows of force at public marches, and some are willing to engage in criminal acts, maybe like destroying the shops, looting, taking the law into their own hands when confronting their foes or expressing their own ideas. When it has occurred, interpersonal violence and during a demonstration has ranged from street fights involving groups to Nazi punching, which, as the term suggests, involves an individual assaulting a perceived enemy. You should not punish for yourself. That's not how the law works. Okay. Antifa followers have also caused property damage at protests. In some instances, Antifa followers show up at protests prepared for physical skirmishes, carrying weapons as well as gear such as shields and helmets. Violence by the US Antifa members is not new. Okay. For example, in 2012, I was in America at this time, I was not, and Obama was the president. In 2012, Anti-Racist Action ARA, an anti-racist group now known as the Torch Network or the Torch Antifa, attacked a meeting of the Illinois European Heritage Association consisting of white supremacists from the National Socialist movement and the people from other groups, brandishing items such as hammers, baseball bats, and the police batons. The attackers entered a Chicago area restaurant and assaulted meeting attendees. Antifa movement literature emphasizes a number of ways to take action. The same movement source that described Antifa obligations urges followers to pursue some activities that appear to be fairly ordinary, lawful protest fare, as well as other activities that seem more confrontational. Among its suggestions, it encourages adherents to do the following. Number one, develop an online social media presence to promote Antifa views and recruit new members. Monitor the activities of groups and individuals who describe themselves as white nationalists, among others. That's actually good for me. I like it because I'm black. I don't want to be a victim of white supremacy. Throw fundraisers and set up promotional tables at a variety of public events to recruit new members. Join rallies held by like-minded organizations and stage counter demonstrations to fascist rallies. Compare organizations hosting speakers or rallies with fascists bent to cancel such events. Protest can involve obstructing access to venues and intense lobbying of hosts. This activity has been called no platforming, i.e., denying opponents a public platform. Remove or deface the publicly posted flyers of perceived enemies. Publicize information about perceived enemies. This can include group affiliations such as KKK, home addresses, photographs, phone numbers, social media profiles, and their employers. This is why I've been seeing sometimes on the internet about forgetting. This is why you should be careful what you say on the internet, okay? Hey, don't attack my company if I get a job and use this as an excuse, okay? This is freedom. I'm just saying. This kind of activity, often involving lawful online research, is called doxing. In some instances, innocent persons' cases of mistaken identity, like for me, if I'm walking around in DC and a random KKK member attacks me and bans me and reaching me, even though I have no idea what's going on, have been targeted and had their lives disrupted by doxing. Although Antifa activists engaging in this line of work purport to avoid such outcomes. The last one is to develop self-defense training regiments involving martial arts and the legal limits governing self-defense items such as pepper spray. You should not do pepper spray, it's illegal. You shouldn't do pepper spray. Retractable clubs, what is that? And the firearms. Oh, even guns? But KKK carries guns anyway. Where and how Antifa followers use such training and equipment likely depends partly on the threat posed by opponents at rallies or the risks of arrest and criminal conviction. Antifa members domestic are Antifa members domestic terrorists? This is a question we need to ask ourselves. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, so the FBI, I just said the FBI should be involved. FBI has expressed increasing concern about violence perpetuated by Antifa supporters. In a congressional testimony in November 2017, FBI Director Christopher Wray said that the FBI was pursuing a number of what we would call anarchist extremist investigations, where we have properly predicted subjects, people who are motivated to commit violent crime activity on kind of an Antifa ideology. In the public remarks in January 2018, Thomas E. Brozowski, the Department of Justice Counsel for Domestic Terrorism Matters, who retaliated Way's comments at the DOJ press conference on June 4th, 2020. Director Way confirmed that active FBI domestic terrorism investigation involving Antifa supporters and other extremists. This gives the FBI. So you have FBI. FBI is the legal agency for federal terrorism investigations. Its top priority is protecting the U.S. from terrorist attack. The FBI honoraries the following definition of domestic terrorism. Domestic terrorism, according to the FBI, is act of violence that the criminal laws of the United States or any state committed by individuals or groups without any foreign direction and appear to be intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population or influence the policy of a government by intimidations or coercion, and occur primarily within the territorial jurisdiction of the United States. The definition says have delineated a number of ideologies that domestic terrorists use to justify their crimes. Domestic terrorist extremists commit crimes in the name of anarchism, likely including Antifa, animal rights, environmental rights, white supremacy, anti-government beliefs, black separatism, and the beliefs tied to abortion. Okay, this here says joint terrorism and task force led by the FBI coordinate federal counterterrorism investigations, including those involving crimes perpetrated by Antifa supporters. The more than 100 GTTFs in FBI field divisions across the country bring together federal, state, and local participants. The GTTFs are multi-agency teams of investigators, analysts, linguists, and other specialists who investigate terrorism and terrorism-related crimes. The FBI safeguards against cases solely focused on constitutionally protected activities. Formal FBI investigative activity must be conducted at the very least for unauthorized national security, criminal or foreign intelligence collection purposes, and in pursuit of a clear defined objectives. Investigative activity may not solely monitor the exercise of First Amendment rights. Okay, so if I say something, this does not include First Amendment rights. If I say bullshit on the internet, FBI will not go after me and arrest it like a threat or something like that. Okay, while the FBI has confirmed that Antifa and other extremists are subjects of ongoing domestic terrorism investigations, it declines to designate any organization a domestic terrorist organization. Doing so might infringe on First Amendment, protected by free speech. Belonging to an ideological group in and of itself is not a crime in the United States. Further, a previously stated Antifa is a decentralized movement, and the law enforcement designation of Antifa as a singular group may prove to be difficult. In July 2019 congressional testimony, Director Ware said the FBI does not investigate ideology, it investigates violence. When it comes to characterizing ideologically inspired criminal actors for investigative purposes, the FBI occasionally confronts suspects who can be viewed as terrorists. But It is important to know that domestic terrorism is not a chargeable federal offense. Really, while an individual may still have committed criminal acts that are widely considered domestic terrorism, the individual cannot be charged with committing an act of domestic terrorism under current federal law. For example, Timothy McVeigh, widely considered a domestic terrorist in the United States, was convicted of murder, conspiracy, and using a weapon of mass destruction in 1995. Bombing of the Alfred P. Murray Federal Building in Oklahoma City that killed 168 people. The FBI and the other federal law enforcement must rely on their working definitions and available tools to appropriately investigate these incidences. Okay, so this was the portion of this product were originally authored by former CRS specialists Jerome P. blah blah blah, and there's a disclaimer on the bottom that says these documents were prepared by the Congressional Research Centers or CRS, and Congressional Research Center serves as a non-partisan shared staffed congressional committees and members of Congress. It operates solely at the behest of and under the direction of Congress. Information in a CRS report should not be relied upon for purposes other than public understanding of information that has been provided by CRS to members of Congress in connection with the CRS institutional role. CRS reports as a work of the United States government and are not subject to copyright protection in the United States. Any CRS report may be reproduced and distributed in its entirety without permission from CRS. However, as a CRS report may include copyrighted images or material from third party, you may need to obtain the permission of the copyright holder if you wish to copy or otherwise use copyrighted material. So I am safe. I won't be, followed by the FBI or this. So I'm free to this. But anyway, this is a very interesting story that in 2020, I have no idea about this. In 2020, we had the government of the United States declaring an organization that does not exist to be Antifa as a domestic terrorism. On the other hand, when Joe Biden became president in 2021, he also declared white supremacy or KKK members, KKK group, as a domestic terrorist. Okay. Man, this is crazy. This is crazy. And Trump keeps saying this as terrorist. If something happens, he calls terrorist. And it kind of makes sense because it's not a one group, it's like multiple groups. And they all kind of have like the same ideology. Black, I don't know who are black separatists, look it up. Who are black separatists? Okay. So black separatism is a race-based political movement advocating for the physical, economic, and cultural separation of black people from white-dominated societies. So, how is that possible? How can you separate black people from white people? I mean, we all share the same economic, roads, highways. That sounds like Jim Crow to me. That's what the MLK banned in 1960s. Anyway, let me keep reading. It stems from principles of racial solidarity and self-determination, with some proponents envisioning an independent black nation or advocating for a return to Africa. Oh, this is like diaspora movement. So if you are watching this video and you are anti-fascist, you are anti-fascist, or you are Antifa, or you are black separatists, right? And you want to go back to Africa, just know that the world is open. The world is open. You can go anywhere as a black person. You can go to India, you can go to China, you can go to Germany, you can go anywhere. Okay. Um, America is racist, but I want to say this for people who are living in the United States, especially black people who are experiencing racism in America, is that even if you go to extremely black nation like in Africa, where like in Uganda we have predominantly black people in Uganda, you are like everyone else. You're like any other black person, right? However, there are other things that can happen, right? It could be tribal, it could be economical differences, it could be religion, it could be beliefs, it could be something, territory, land, right? So there's also going to be issues whenever you go in the world. And the key is not to run away from the problem. And that's why I'm young when I moved here. I was younger, but even if I was in Uganda, I want to have power to fight something. But it's the reason why there is military. Is the reason why is the reason why we have terrorist groups in Somalia and Nigeria and in Congo. These people, Sudan, these people, they are trying to overcome to make change. They are trying to bring changes. They're trying to bring new ideas, new things. In America, the reason why we have Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians. In 1865, is the reason why the Republican was born, right, to fight against the oppression of black people, slaves, introduce machines, equipments, and advancements. It's the reason why Europeans moved to the United States, because they didn't want to deal with the European kingdoms and anarchy and operations, right? In the whole world, whenever you go in the whole world, there is going to be issues happening, and to fight those things, you have to use either education, but try in a way that we can change policies, change things without encouraging people to move to another place. And yes, they choose to. If you're a black person and you just want to move to Africa, just move. But don't move because don't move because somebody told you to do so. Move only if you feel like you can have a better opportunities there. If racism is a problem, if you're even American or being discriminated, and you think you can find a home, you can find a safe place in Africa, whether it's Ghana, or it comes from African Americans, whether it's Rwanda, or whether it's Congo, somewhere in Kisangani or Kinshasa, these are really good places to be. Whether you want to go to, Lagos, Nigeria, or you want to go to South Africa. South Africa has also white people as well. But whenever you choose to go to, just know that choose a place not based on race. Choose a place where you feel like you're comfortable. Like I live in DC, and in DC, it's so much better than being in Uganda, because here I match people who live here with the ideology, with the beliefs, politics, economics, policies, right? Like we have the same vibe, opinionated, right? That's the vibe. It doesn't have to be in the same race. It can be different race. It can be white people. It could be white people somewhere in the South, somewhere in Texas, whom you can go in there, meet, get to know them, right? Have a wonderful life. I can't tell you how many white people I've seen from Uganda who are missionaries in Uganda who come to the United States, and you are like brothers. The difference is like the skin, but they're like sisters and brothers because you have the same shared. Oh, that guy's fast. We share the same, right? The same background or the same struggle, right? So, yeah, I mean, I'm not against the idea of moving to Africa to have that African community, African friends. You're gonna find friends over there, right? But just not you can find friends anywhere. You can find communities anywhere, and also you can find problems anywhere, right? So, anyway, the movement has deep roots in the United States, driven by historical segregation, systemic inequalities, and the desire to escape white supremacy. Core aspects of the ideology include socioeconomic autonomy, the belief that the black communities should establish their own institutions, economies, and political structure, cultural nationalism, and emphasis on race pride, African heritage, and preserving distinct cultural identity. Separation versus segregation. Proponents distinguishes themselves from forced segregation, which is regulated by outsiders. Instead, they seek voluntary separation where black people have to have total control over their communities. Okay. Then there's like Marcus Garvey spearheaded the Black to Africa movement in the 1920s through through the Universal Negro Movement Association, or UNIA, the National of Islam, even Islam, wow, NOI, prominent figures in the 1960s, the Black Power movement, such as Malcolm X. I like Malcolm X, one of my favorite guy, advocated for separate economies and cultural independence. Present day modern groups focus on community self-defense, institution building, and economic self-reliance. So there's like Reddit here. So anyways, this is a good idea, right? I'm not against a group of people trying to have their own economic power. Yes, in America, if you watch this from other countries, in United States, there is a system designed to, by default, to keep Black people in poverty. Okay, I'm not making this up. I'm not getting paid. I'm not advocating for any groups, but I can tell you that this is a non-partisan opinion, but it can also be a bipartisan opinion, but it's not a partisan opinion. Okay, it's not a Democrat, Republican, but it can be both. It can also be none of them. Okay, if you don't know politics, non-partisan means not politically motivated. Bipartisan means both political groups, and So, anyways, in America, white people make up the majority, right? So they are majority, but they also have access to many resources, including jobs. Like when you apply for jobs as a white person, you have a higher chance of getting employed. However, it depends on what kind of jobs you're getting, because from 1960s, things have changed. For example, if a white person and a Black person works into a recruitment for basketball players, a Black person will get a much higher favoritism compared to a white person. Okay, if you work into a factory, a Black person gets a job over a white person. Okay, despite historically American factories have been run by white people, they are blue collar workers. If you work in an office, to get a job in an office, you're more likely to get, if you're a Black person and there's a white person, they will give a job to a white person over a Black person. Okay, this has to do with the influences of media. Media portrays white people as very financial success in the media, right? Then portrays Black people as violent, very physical, very strong, basketball players, football players, soccer players, like very strong, right? Muhammad Ali, right? Those boxers, right? Michael Jordan, James LeBron, but those guys are like, the media makes it look that way. So, but despite all of that, when it says systemic, I mean like the higher system. Okay, this includes the financial banks, tech, universities, right? The government. If you can use the government, it's predominantly white. Okay, now Black people are not the only people who don't have opportunities to higher jobs, but they are the only people out of all non-white people. Black people are the only people who tends to chase the same thing as white people. Let me see my time here. So I have 14 minutes. Black people, they want to go to school, they want to do research, they want to do medical, they want to go to be professors, they want to be leaders, they want to be in the military. Black people have all the qualities that are equal to white people, which is why Black and white are used in every single sentence. They are used in every single study, because these two groups, they have the same structure, same things, same beliefs, except their ratio. And one of the groups is more not powerful, but it's more, how can I say, it's more favored by the society over the other, and this is white people. So when I say there's a racism in America, there's truly racism in America. It does exist, physically exist. You cannot just deny it, right? Like it does exist. People usually just do it by nature, right? But as the population go, things change, things get better, right? We get education, and there's also people moving in from other countries. You have Africans, they come from Africa and they move here, right? Not only am I, if America doesn't hire me, there's a possibility that I could go to Africa and take all the knowledge I have. This will happen to Chinese. Chinese get to America to study, and the United States took advantage of the Chinese knowledge, so they went back to China and they built China like tremendous. Same things happening to Indians. Indians came here and they can't find jobs because white people say, oh, we don't want Indians, they're not black. So they do what? They go back to India. They take all the tech companies, Google, Facebook, Nvidia, whatever they have, they take it. And on top of that, they scam white people here, where they're in India, right? So for years, right, America has recognized this. The young people know this. Older people, they don't know this, so they're the ones who are mostly racist. People like Donald Trump, I call him stupid. He doesn't know anything, right? But young people know this. People are in their 50s, 40s, 30s, 20s. They know that racism is not good, so they have to fight it. Okay, so but the idea of sending people back to Africa, and this is like a purpose of doing it. It shouldn't be it shouldn't be like a movement. There should be no movement that says, "Oh, let's go back to Africa." Like that's, let them go if they want to. Okay, don't just force people to go back to wherever they don't want to go. There's some Africans who don't want to come to America. There's some Africans who want to come to America. I'm one of those people who came to America, not because I was forced, but because I said, you know what? If I go to America, I can have education that I want. I can go and see Jay-Z. I haven't seen Jay-Z, but I like Jay-Z. I like 50 Cent. I can see those stars, right? I can go to Los Angeles. I can have the opportunity, right? But there are those who come here and they don't have those opportunities. There are those who come here and they stay poor. There are those who come here and go to school and get education. So just be mindful when you have this black separatism. But anyways, this was a good discussion that I had. This was wonderful, and hopefully that I'm able to show you why Antifa is a huge movement in America, and why it exists. And I'm glad to see the U.S. government is looking at it and starting to work on it. They're trying to declare it as a terrorism organization, is blah blah blah. Domestic terrorism. You should never, ever, ever, as a government, label your own people as domestic terrorism. Never do that. It's the worst thing you can ever do, because domestic terrorism is a definition that can be given to certain people, and once you do that, now you are no longer preventing a problem. You are now classifying certain people as terrorists, and when that happens, it can create violence. It can cause the government to collapse. Okay, this will happen in Germany. The Nazi movement, they labeled Jews as bad, and what turned out to be massive killings, massive assassinations, genocide, destructions. Okay, so never do this as a politician. It's not a good idea. Some influencers out there, those MAGA supporters who like to make videos on the internet, some get shot. I heard the guy, his name is Charlie Kirker. He got killed because of talking nonsense on the internet, or things like that. Oh, I'm trying to explore the truth. I'm trying to exercise my own freedom of speech. I'm trying to do that. Like, just be careful that what you say, but take it very seriously, right? That includes this video too. So that being said, thanks for watching. It's getting dark in my room, so this video is very, very long. But other than that, thanks for watching. Like always, ciao, ciao, adios. My tea is getting cold, so I'm gonna drink my tea. Bye bye, ciao, ciao. And if in DC, stay warm, stay cool out there, and it's very quiet. Oh, and enjoy Memorial Day coming up this Monday on the day after tomorrow, which is May 25th. It's gonna be Memorial Day, and hopefully you enjoy the barbecue in your own house and see your friends. Go out there and remember some people died in the war. Bye bye. Ciao ciao. Spasiba. Adios and take care. Thank you.